Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Jeff Coventry, and tonight we're breaking new ground in high school football coverage. We'd like to thank our primary sponsor for this season, Area 51 Sports, and of course, our live stream provider, TYSN Sports, for their coverage of this year's inaugural event. You know the Ontario High School Football Coaches Poll. You usually see it pop up on your social media feed. Well, this year, we're going to be doing things a little differently. For the very first time ever, we are unveiling the Coaches Poll right here on live stream, which is allowing us to break down rankings instantly and get some feedback from the coaches. And to do this, we are joined by the absolute best experts, people from around the province who coach you, the people who actually create this list. Please welcome some fellow coaches and committee members from the Ontario High School Football Coaches Poll, who are here with us tonight and to discuss their work. Coaches, take the round table and introduce yourself.
Alex Dolson from Etobicoke, Toronto Public, TDSSA.
Brad Smart, Paul Dwyer out of Lhasa. Just looking forward to chatting football and talk about how scheduling made an impact in our decisions this year.
Tom Annett.
Oh, sorry, go Tom.
Tom Annett, Core Collegiate out of Sault Ste. Marie in the Algoma District School Board. Looking forward to a great night of discussion.
Bryce Ivanchuk, Ann Meyer, Niagara Falls, Ontario, SASA.
And I'm Shane Hutchinson. I'm the head coach at Confederation Chargers in Sudbury.
And I'm your host, of course, Jeff Coventry, Ontario High School Football Chairman and head coach at St. Matthew High School in Ottawa. So you hear straight from the source. These are the coaches who and the votes shaped this ranking. So let's get right to it. To truly understand the gravity of these rankings, we first have to reflect on what we've just witnessed. Parity has reached an all-time high in Ontario and making these rankings incredibly difficult. We got to talk about the methodology and how the ranking system works. The integrity of this poll is built on the perspective of the experts and the head coaches themselves. Over 13 weeks, their certified head coaches and coordinators submitted their top 25 ballots this week and others. And it's here's how the system works. Every time a coach ranks a team, that team earns points. The team that gets ranked first, it gets 25 points, second gets 24, and so on, all the way down to the 25th ranked team, which gets 1 point. The 25 teams with the highest overall points totals are what you see in the final poll, and this is the exact same process we follow every week. Now let's talk about the postseason. The OFSA Bowl Festival. We know the official matchups are usually decided by OFSA's Football SAC Committee, but we like to think here at Ontario High School Football that our rankings provided crucial guidance to the final bowl matchups. We'd like to kind of give ourselves a quick shout out for having the SAC take our advice when it came to the rankings. And now that we've set the table, let's acknowledge the teams that received strong consideration. Let's take a look at our honorable mentions. As you can see here, we have teams in our honorable mentions that received some votes, like St. Thomas More out of Hamilton, Ontario, and a tough Hamilton Catholic League. You can see Georgetown out of the HSSA in Burlington. We have a AA bowl champion out of Cornwall, Ontario from St. Joseph. We have the runners-up from the NRHSSA area in Niagara, Sir Winston Churchill. We also see St. Benedict's, who had an amazing run this year out of Kwasa. And of course, we see a tough team over there out of Oak Ridge who had the London Slog over there. Many more deserving teams, but we can't name them all. Coaches, what do we think of those who are receiving votes? Imagine the quality of team, and do we feel like anybody was left out?
Just out of the Toronto region, Western Tech, very strong team. Chaminade, very strong team. They played a tough schedule. They had to participate in the Metro Bowl. They played, I think, 3 games over the last 17 days. But overall, the Toronto League it's very paired, lots of parity, and we're all kind of equal, and we kind of beat each other up in the season, and that's kind of, and we get to the playoffs, and we had a couple upsets, so it kind of gives you an example of why maybe some of aren't some of us don't get as high as some of the other teams, as due to all the parity and kind of eating each other up. But Western Tech, Chaminade, two strong, Catholic champion and the public champion out of Toronto.
I think parity is the key word that Alex just mentioned, and you said off the top, Jeff. I mean, there are a few teams there that any other year they could be in the top 25, but depending who they're playing against, and that's just the beauty of high school football. It changes so much from year to year, and we have some honorable mention teams and also teams maybe that normally would be here that, you know, for whatever reason this year, here's where they're at. But it's great to see just the parity that we're starting to get across the province.
You know, Jeff, with regards to the honorable mention, I'd like to take a moment and talk about Holy Cross just sitting on the outside at 26. We didn't play this year, but we went down to Kingston and played them last year. And they're a real testament to how tough football in Kingston is. So, you know, I think that's a team I could see in the 25 very soon. And the other team that I'd like to mention is Sir Winston from St. Catharines, coached by Donnie Marshall. It's a super athletic team. They upset us last year at SASA, and they gave us a hell of a game in this year's DSBN championship. So those are two teams in the honorable mentions that I'd like to mention.
That's great. Thank you, fellas. That's a great segue into our just outside the top 25. So we'll get into that with number 30. We have our UCC Ursuline Lancers coming out of Sarnia, Ontario, cracking that top 30 with their championship season out of that area, beating a very strong St. Pat's, who you see here in the honorable mention as well. So shout out to both teams and congratulations on a great year. We got number 29 out of London, Ontario. They were London semifinalists, the Medway Cowboys. Another great team who finished first on their side of the division and just couldn't make it into that final game. But they're on the up. They've been in the last 2 years. They've been ranked and on the honorable mentions and moving on up with good records. Number 29 is Paul Dwyer, Coach Brad Smart, who's here with us today. They had a great run this year at LASA, winning the city championship. And as you can see on screen, we've got them playing their OFSA Bowl against St. Mark's, just unfortunately falling up short, but a great showing because it was close games. I believe the final score is 17-22. Brad, would you like to make a couple comments about your season?
Yeah, I'm very happy to see us where we are. You know, we had another great year in our area and tough competition outside, which is, I think, fairly to say where we were at, but proud of our guys the way that we bounced back after a tough 905 bowl game in their OFSA Bowl. Even though we still fell short, they competed. And I mean, I think we'll see these couple teams coming up a little later on tonight for good reason.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate those thoughts, and congrats again on that great season. We'll keep it moving and move into the 27th team out of Ottawa, Ontario, the NCSSAA finalists, the St. Joseph Jaguars. Knowing their coach Scatchard very well, I'll speak to them a little bit. An amazing receiver tandem this year with Tanner Hudson-Ward and Nate Curry. Their quarterback Beelan really took some strides this year, and the biggest thing that's shown for them was that massive O-line and their running game with Nicastro being able to run downhill with in front of some big bodies. An amazing showing this year in Ottawa. Just fell short. It took it to double overtime with St. Mark's. It truly could have gone either way. They have to be really proud of their performance regardless of results. So congratulations, St. Joseph's, on your number 27. And last but not least, the Holy Cross Kingston, not to be confused with the other Peterborough one, the Holy Cross Kingston Saints at number 26. Holy Cross is led by Coach Pendergast, who's a longtime coach there, and their offensive coordinator as well, Pat Corbin, who happens to be on our panel and our coaches committee. And Coach Corbin does a really good job getting those guys ready on offense, and Coach Pendergast does a really good job getting those boys ready to go in Kingston every year. Just kind of a tough slog in Kingston when Frontenac seems to be the perennial front runner for most of the years. But from what we've heard from Holy Cross, they seem to think the tide is turning in the next couple of years. So we can't wait to see that, and we hope that it remains competitive out of Kingston, which is actually a very competitive region, which has up to honestly 3 or 4 teams like LaSalle and Sydenham, fighting for it every year. Fellas, based on 30 to 20, 26, do we feel like anybody was left out, or do we feel like this is an even ranking, or should somebody perhaps be in the top 25?
I think this is pretty good. Just want to give a shout out to Paul Dwyer. I had a chance to see them last year at when we hosted the Junior Metro Bowl at our school. They played Western Tech. A lot of those kids are at senior, so I've kind of been following along with them, and I watched some of their games. Number one, David Nosa, the running back, stellar athlete, can kind of do it all. They also had a tough run with the schedule, playing short 3-4 games with the Metro Bowl and then the championship, and playing just as large as three games in a span of 2 weeks. And so it's difficult. You got to tip their hats off for battling, and they had a very tight game against it was St. Mark's in the playoffs in the OFSA. So yeah, just excited to see them going forward next year. Maybe we have a matchup against them. Hopefully next year in the Metro Bowl final.
We definitely encourage some non-conference play. We love that here at Ontario High School Football. It's always nice to see during the exhibition season. You get to get out of your city and kind of go see some other teams. Anybody else have any final comments before we move on?
I'll just say, Jeff, some of these leagues are so competitive. There's some teams maybe that didn't make the list, thinking coming out of London or even Hamilton Catholic, that maybe the records weren't impressive, but every week in those leagues is just such a battle. So, I think they have a leg to stand on with that argument. I'm also going to give a shout out to our guys in the North Hammersholt out of Thunder Bay. A lot of people don't get to see them just because of their geography, but we were very fortunate. They made the trip up to the Sioux to have a crossover practice with us. A really talented team, very well coached. I know they didn't go the way they wanted to against St. Ignatius in the finals, but St. Ignatius is a great team. So just want to echo that sentiment, though, that some of these leagues are just so tough that teams, maybe their records aren't super impressive, but they could easily be in these honorable mentions.
Absolutely, Coach Annett. Those are some tough teams to leave out. We got, teams like Hamilton Catholic's Newman, London's AB Lucas. We're talking some pretty heavy hitters from year in and year out. And if these honorable mentions are this strong, imagine the quality team that just got into the 25 this year. So it's been quite the slog. With that being said, it is time to reveal what our coaches agreed upon to be the top 25. Starting off with number 25, South Collegiate Lions, sneaking in to that 25th spot after a AA OFSA win at 6-4. They battled all year through injuries and were just London semifinalists. Tough game against CCH, but they have lots to be proud of. That's a big, strong team over there out in London. At number 24, St. Ignatius Falcons out of Thunder Bay, 6-2 out of the SSAA. They are the Thunder Bay champions and also OFSA Bowl champions. Congratulations, St. Ignatius, on an awesome season. At number 23, the Corpus Christi Longhorns out of Burlington, Ontario. 6-3 this year, HCAA finalists. Another great showing this year for the Corpus Christi Longhorns. Just usually an OFSA team, just couldn't get it done this year, but lots to hang your hat on and lots to build off. I know Coach Grinch and those guys will be licking their chops to try to get back to it next year. Moving on up, we've got number 22, the St. Andre Bessette Bulldogs out of London, Ontario. They are your London WASA finalists this year at 7-2. They had an amazing group of kids coming out of there. The coach wanted me to mention shout outs to Liam Sweeney, Connor Steery, Rory Wilkins, Julian Garces, Alex Sanders, Zaid Siam, Michael Fidea, and Obina Ichite. And we'll talk more about those guys in depth later. Continuing on our list, we have our 21st team right before we stop at the out of Hamilton, Ontario, Westmount Wildcats, 6-3 out of the Hamilton Public League. They are the Hamilton Public League finalists this year, and they also got a bid into the SASA Playdowns, where they were SASA semifinalists. They go ahead and claim that 21 spot. And finally, rounding out our first pod at number 20 out of Welland, Ontario, is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish from Welland at 7-2. They are the Niagara Catholic champions this year. Also got themselves a bid, or earned themselves a bid into the SASA regional playdowns, and were a victim of a very strong Ann Meyer, I believe, and they ended up falling up short this year. But great season out of the Catholic champions from Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So looking at the first 6 teams, fellows, we see records from 7-2, 6-4. What single team in this 25 to 20 grouping, based purely on their record and a regional finish, do you believe the coaches vastly maybe overranked or tragically underranked?
Well, Jeff, from a familiarity perspective, we played 4 of these 6 teams several times over the last 2 years. So our experience with South was a testament to London football. They were big, they were strong, and it was a very, very physical game. We ran into Corpus in OFSA last year, and I still remember watching the Wildcat in the fourth quarter. Very, very well coached, good team. The one that I'm going to speak about a bit is at number 21, Westmount. We've had the absolute privilege of playing Westmount 4 years in a row, either in the SASA semis or the SASA final. And Coach Payne runs an excellent program, great group of kids, and we love every time we play them. And finally, one of our rivals, Notre Dame from Welland, Coach Biskey has always done a really good job there. And from what I understand, they have some really good young linemen and athletes coming up. So it'll be exciting in the coming years.
Love to hear that the parity down in Southern Ontario is only getting better. So as you can see here with the clips, lots of competitive football going on there. I also had the unfortunate pleasure of seeing the AAA Invitational of South at 6-4, and I got to tell you, 6-4 is not the record that they truly play at. As Tom Ennett spoke about in terms of regional competitiveness, that London League is a bit of a slog. So there's some physical football being played there, and you'll be seeing in our rankings that it's fairly represented there based on how strong London and their region is. So shout out to all the London teams, especially South and St. Andre Bessette.
I just want to say that I was impressed by St. Ignatius from the north. I mean, it kind of goes to that testament where maybe we don't see the northern teams as much, and maybe they don't get as much love. But I was able to watch them versus one of my Toronto counterparts in Western Tech, and they were just built for November, right? We always talk about being two sports within one season, right? When you play in October and September, nice weather, can throw the ball all over the field, spread offenses, going fast. It's great. Once you get into November, it starts raining, it starts being cold. Guys don't want to tackle. It's a whole brand new brand of football, and some of these northern teams, they're very good at it. And Gus from Toronto and some of the southern teams, we gotta adjust and maybe do a little better job of adjusting to it. And yeah, so just want to give a shout out to the northern teams, as like I said, maybe they don't get as much recognition because we really don't see much of them until we get to the latter starts of the season.
Yeah, it was funny. We were hearing a lot of commentators during the OFSA Bowl saying that the Thunder Bay guys were always the underdogs, but I think they're quick to forget that Westgate had a great showing last year at OFSA against Frontenac, almost got that win, and a couple of years ago when it was back at Guelph again, St. Patrick's actually upset St. Roch from ROPSA. So I think this moniker that the SSA is, an underdog. I think that needs to kind of be knocked going forward, and we need to probably give a little bit more respect to Thunder Bay.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. I think the teams from Thunder Bay don't get enough credit. I feel like they're a little low on this list for how good of a season they had. And again, I think it comes down to exposure. We don't get to see them too much.
I'll echo that as well. I mean, that Thunder Bay League is very high quality. We played the Thunder Bay rep, I believe, in 2021 with a really competitive game. They're a tough team. With South, again, right on the edge there at 25, I think they can make a strong argument too. Jeff, I could be wrong, but did they not have the closest score this year with CCH?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because the closest score and still ends up being 35-0, but a 35-point swing out of
Okay.
London with CCH is no joke because London, as you'll see, will be quite high up our rankings. Yeah,
Right. Well,
yeah.
South, they're always a great team, very well coached, and I know you competed against them in the Double A Bowl, but I know they had a few injuries early in the season, but they came on strong at the end. Same with Saint Andre Bissett. I mean, to finish two there in that London league, but they just had that juggernaut CCH team this year. I'm also talk a lot to Tom Payne at Westmount and Tim at Notre Dame. I can assure you those teams are very well coached, and in the preparation for our bowl game, I got to watch a couple of their games. Some very talented teams.
Thanks for the analysis, guys. Really appreciate that. But there is, of course, no time to rest. So guess what? We got to keep going. 19-15 coming up. Debating that crucial pod that separates maybe some regional powerhouses from fringe contenders. And the reveal continues right now. At number 19, we've got the St. Joan of Arc Knights out of Barrie, Ontario, coming on strong out of the GBSSA. 9-1 Catholic champions out of there and winning their regional playdown game as well against their public league counterpart. At number 18, the Herman Griffins out of Windsor, Ontario. First Windsor representation on this list, but not the last. They are the WEXA finalists. Last year, OFSA champions, but just this year falling a little bit short. Both teams, Holy Names and Herman Griffins, this year battled hard against each other, giving each other each their only loss of the year. So shout out to Herman. Up next, we have some northern representation with the Confederation Chargers out of Sudbury. 8-2 this year, SDSSAA champions out of Sudbury. Going down into the NASA playdowns as well, taking care of the Algonquin team out of North Bay, and just falling up a little bit short against Coach Annett's strong Cora team, but nothing to shake a stick at. They bounced back and had an awesome OFSA game again, just falling short, but an amazing showing from Confed. Number 16, the team that beat the Confederation Chargers at OFSA, the Elmira Lancers, coming out of Quassa and Wexa, WCSSAA at 8-1. Elmira, what a story coming on. I know Coach Magicoma on our panel was saying that Elmira will be a force for the next couple of years. They've got some talent there, and it's starting to show. Kind of a team that came out of nowhere because nobody had really heard of them. They had a decent junior year a couple of years ago, but didn't win the finals. But they've kind of made their way up, and winning Wexa and Quassa, or sorry, just falling short of Quassa and being the number 2. They still were able to get to a bowl game and ended up winning an OFSA bowl game. So congrats to Elmira. And finally, at number 15, rounding out this pod, is a strong St. James Lions. Now, they just fell short at OFSA, a little bit tough conditions for them, tough game, but nothing to be ashamed of. At 9-3, the D10 champions, taking out the former champions in Centennial Guelph along the way, and also claiming a championship, their first championship in a number of years for St. James. So lots to be proud of there. They are also the Quassa champions, which gave them the OFSA berth this year. So congratulations to all those teams. Coaches, this pod features several excellent single loss teams and some single or multiple, and also some multiple loss teams. Which regional champion in this 19-15 segment has the most questionable resume right now? Or what's one factor, maybe strength of schedule or a single loss, that should move them up or down next for that you think that should be moved up and down? Or do we feel that like these rankings are pretty representative of where 19 and 15 should be right now? Yeah.
I feel just looking at where these teams land, I think you mentioned it there with their schedule. And unfortunately, there are a couple teams that just based on geography alone, like giving a huge shout out to Coach Hutchinson and Confederation out of Sudbury, like how often do they get to come further south for non-conference games? But then they're showing against Cora, and I know Coach Annett, like you can speak to them certainly firsthand, and then what they did at OFSA. Even look at a powerhouse or perennial powerhouse like Herman out of Windsor, and how often are they able to travel outside of conference? But again, with their battles against Holy Names this year, it's really tough to see them where they are, knowing the quality that they put on the field. So sometimes it does come down to opportunities outside of your region. And even though the record is what it is, it's tough to really move them further up or down the list, but still quality seasons from everyone involved.
Thanks, Coach Smart. Anybody else?
I'll chime in there about Confed because we played them. I know Shane's kind of humble, but what him and his staff have done there is incredible because a lot of people don't know it's a single A school. Like I think there's only 400 and some kids at Confed, and for them to play that tough against schools significantly larger is super impressive. So hats off to them. And that bowl game, I mean, Elmira got them, but I think that one could have gone either way. It was a great game, very entertaining to watch. With Herman on there, I'd argue maybe they have their only losses, I believe, were to Holy Names, who I assume we're going to see much higher up in the rankings. So, that's pretty impressive on their part too. Always a quality traditional powerhouse program there. So, impressed with them. I'll let some other coaches chime in.
I would probably echo Tom's comments with regards to Coach Hutchinson and Confederation. For the size of the school, for them to go and throw down with Tom's offense the way they did, it is pretty incredible. So props to Coach.
Yeah. We got to give our shout outs too to the GBSSAA champs too out of St. Joan of Arc there. Kind of came out of nowhere. They've kind of been sniffing around in Barrie for a couple of years, just couldn't really crack it. I know Coach Ford's happy about that one, and I'm sure his guys are pretty happy about finally getting to the big dance. Now, even if you fall short, getting there is still something to be proud of, and maybe they have something to build on for next year. And I'd be remiss if I didn't let Coach Hutchinson talk about maybe a couple guys out of Confed that he's proud of this year.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. We had a great year. I'm very blessed to have a very good senior squad. A couple of guys that I'll give shout outs to. One of our linebackers, Colton Savage, plays Mike linebacker for us. He's a Team Ontario CFC kid. He was our heart and soul in our defense. A super senior, Nathan Nadeau, who plays safety for us. Every time we needed a big play on defense, he was always there. And obviously, I like offensive line. Tom can note to this. You wing, you're a run heavy team, play wing T. You need a great offensive line. And our offensive line played really well this year. And then I had two really good running backs in Mason McLaughlin and Evan Doyle, who really carried the rock for us and chewed up clock and, won us games.
Thanks, Coach Hutchinson. And yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping a lot of those guys like Savage and Nadeau do apply for the All Ontario, and stuff like that. Same with my last shout out. I'll go to number 15, St. James Lions. Maybe the Ofsa game didn't go their way, but I got to say I was really impressed with the interior and the Faria brothers there causing some havoc on the inside run game. So just a big quick shout out to the number 15 St. James Lions and the Faria brothers for having a good season, and hoping to see them apply for All Ontario as well.
And before we move on, Jeff, I just want to talk about Elmira and St. James because leading up to that OFSA game, I watched them very closely both because they could either be our opponent. Both of them were nightmares for matchups. St. James had a dynamic defense that we're trying to scheme very close towards. And then Elmira is built for November football. They're big and aggressive, and they run the ball really well.
It's quite the fascinating midsection. We got to be honest. It's we're already seeing some tough calls made, especially that 16-15 spot, as you just said, Elmira and St. James, we are going to have to step aside for our first break, but when we return, guys, we will return and unlock the door to that illustrious next group and heading towards the top 10 with 14-11. Stay with us, and thank you for joining us on TYSN Sports. See you soon.
Are you ready to take your game to the next level? Introducing Area 51 Sports, your ultimate destination for everything football. We understand that football isn't just a game, it's a way of life. At Area 51 Sports, we're more than just a sports gear company. We're football people just like you. From playing the sport to coaching and volunteering, we've lived and breathed football, and that passion fuels everything we do. Gear up with our sleek jerseys designed to empower players to dominate the field. Experience the difference with cutting-edge equipment that enhances performance and elevates your game. Whether you're a league, club, or team, Area 51 Sports is here to be your winning partner. Visit us at area51sports.ca and let's kickstart a partnership that fuels your success.
And welcome back. We are now revealing the teams from 14 through 11, where every win and loss starts to really count. And we're starting to get into the nitty gritty of these powerhouse programs as we get down into the top 10. We'll begin right away with number 14, the Robert F. Hall Wolfpack. Barnstorming their way up into the 14 spot out of Caledon, Ontario, just outside of the GTA. They're an 8-1 team out of ROPSA. They took that league by storm this year, which is perennially the St. Roch's league to lose. The Wolfpack said, we're going to take it and we're going to run with it. At number 13, it's the Holy Cross Hurricanes from Peterborough, Ontario. Perennial top 25 members. They've done a great job out of Peterborough creating a program, another small school that is making waves and punching above their weight. Another OFSA championship between them and the Wolfpack as well from 14 and 13. Congratulations, Holy Cross. At number 12, we see the return of the Nelson Lords from Burlington, Ontario. 8-3 HSSAA, but that 3 is probably the 3 toughest losses in Ontario this year. They had no easy schedule. That HSAA is also decently tough, and then getting down to GHAC, which is an absolute slog in your provincial, regional playdowns. So congratulations, Nelson, for your number 12 spot, the HSAA champions. And finally, at number 11, we have our St. Mark Lions out of the NCSSAA, Ottawa High School Football. They finished the season at 9-1, a perfect Ontario season with one blemish against a Quebec team named Selwyn House. But that Ontario schedule, they played in Ottawa and then getting down to the bowl game and taking that W from Paul Dwyer makes them OFSA champions as well as our Ottawa City champions for this year. So panel, we are right outside the top 10 now. And as I said, every win and loss does count here. And we're not seeing too many losses. What's the most contradictory ranking in the 14 to 11 segment? And what message do you think the particular placement sends about how coaches are weighing maybe a perfect record versus competitive losses? How do we feel about this grouping, this pod? Yeah.
I'll chime in there. I mean, Nelson, obviously a perennial power, and some people question those 3 losses. But if you look who they played, I believe it was Frontenac in an exhibition preseason, Meyer, and their 3rd loss was to Assumption in one of their semifinal games.
Which truly could have gone either way.
Yeah, it came down to the last play. Incredible game. So, you don't want to fault teams that are seeking out great competition, and hats off to Nelson for doing that. And they played all those teams very competitively, so I think they deserve that. On the other hand, you got 8-0 Holy Cross. Cora actually played Holy Cross at OFSA in 2019 at McMaster. And it was a tough team, very well coached. Some people may be asking, they're undefeated, why didn't they move up? And that may be a good argument. At the same time, they played a few less games than some other people, and they didn't play out of their conference. I don't necessarily want to use that a knock against them, but it's hard for coaches in the polls, in the rankings, to use a measuring stick when you don't see those out of conference games. But I think these rankings are pretty fair. Robert F. Hall ran through Toronto there in the playoffs. And St. Mark's always great, coached by Andy there in an always competitive Ottawa league. So I like where these teams are sitting.
Yeah, I agree. Robert Hall, very strong team out of ROPSA. They lost their first game to St. Roch. I think it was a very tight game by a couple points. Once again, they're a team that was built for November. So I don't even think they were on our radar for most of the season until it got going. They got into the honorable mention, then they got to the top 3 out, then slowly, and then they basically went from not being on the list to 14. But very strong team with Nick Pagani at receiver. There's also a group that was been together for I think I was watching there's the CP24 special they had on them. They're talking about this is a team that's been together 3-4 years. They've lost a couple finals together, so they're a group that's been playing together. They're a group that's kind of been through it all, and in the end, they were able to put it all together and win the Metro Bowl, and it wasn't even close. I think they beat Dwyer. Dwyer just kind of had too many turnovers to overcome, but it was a closer game than the score indicated. It was 30-7. What's it called against Chaminade? It was just it was 39-0. It was over in like the first half, and then they went on. And I think it was 25-14 at offside, but they were winning like 25-0. So they kind of ran the table those last 3-4 weeks. And I honestly think if they were on the radar a little earlier, that they probably might have been even kind of maybe even a couple spots up higher. It's just they joined the radar so later on that it was kind of okay.
Yeah.
14. But so 14 is a fair spot for them.
Yeah, it's always tough to take a loss early in the year, but it's always how you bounce back. And as we always talk about as pollsters, it's never about the first poll; it's about the last poll, right? So definitely shout out to Robert F. Hall there. I'm going to circle back to Holy Cross PTBO. I'd be remiss if their coaches didn't get mad at me for not shouting out the guys they were asking for. So Jordan Duck, offensive guard, D tackle. Jake Martin, Halawati, tailback, grade 12. Ryan Cottam, wide receiver, grade 12. Trent Meelan, defensive end, grade 12. Owen Hogan, defensive end, grade 12. Owen Shartner, linebacker, fullback, grade 12. Santi Salgado Scott, who was a beast during that OFSA game, running downhill, number 11 in grade 11. And their surprise call up for the OFSA game, Cooper Lund, tailback, grade 10, coming up and doing some serious damage at OFSA this year. And of course, their quarterback, Oliver Lemire, QB, grade 12. Great season out of Holy Cross. I just wanted to make sure that they got their shout outs in. So congratulations. Yeah. Anybody else for any other teams in this grouping?
Sure, Jeff. With regards to the Nelson Lords, we did go there and play them in Burlington this year. The atmosphere, the intensity, and the quality of opponent was excellent. Coach Brock's doing a great job. The right side of their O-line were fantastic as well. And we also got the benefit of a CF-18 flyover, so thanks to Coach Brock for that too.
Nelson is probably honestly Canada, or at least Ontario's staple for night games and what it's like to really have a true high school night game feel and vibe. So if you ever get a chance, or your coach gets a call from Coach Brock asking you to play in Friday Night Lights, you should probably head over to Nelson Stadium and check it out, either if you're playing or you're watching. Anybody else before we move on? All right. So, with that being said, the top 10 is about to be established. We're gonna just 3 spots away from that elite top 10. The debate's over, and we're gonna take our final break when we come back. It's nothing but the best from now on. It's gonna be top 10 football, including our number ones. So yeah, don't miss it.
Be a game that football fans across Ontario join during NFL halftimes. But more importantly for high school football programs, in 2026, schools will be able to use this platform as a fully turnkey fundraiser. There's no selling, no volunteer workload, and no event logistics. Teams simply invite parents, alumni, and supporters to join a few trivia games each year with a small donation. And the program earns recurring revenue that can support travel budgets, equipment upgrades, coaching stipends, and more. If you're part of a high school football program looking for an easier and more sustainable way to fundraise, visit www.tysn.ca to set up your first trivia game. Scan the QR code on your screen right now to test it out yourself.
And welcome back for the final climb, guys. We're going to be revealing teams 10 through 6. We're going to kick right off, and we're going to get right into it, into the nitty gritty with our number 10 spot. We are seeing out of the GHAC and Hamilton Catholic area, the Bishop Tonos Titans from Hamilton, 7-2 this year out of, as I said, Hamilton Catholic. No slouch. They lost a 1-point final against Bishop Ryan, who you're going to see later on. So congratulations, Bishop Tonos, to an amazing season. Those two losses were against quality opponents you'll probably be seeing at the top end of this ranking. Just ahead of them, staying in the GHAC area, we have the HCAA Assumption Crusaders at number 9, 10-1 on the season. That one loss coming at the hands of the GHAC champions, Bishop Ryan. Assumption Crusaders had a storybook season, ran through the HCAA, beat Corpus Christi, and reclaimed the title that they hadn't seen in years, and just fell one game short of getting to OFSA against a very strong Bishop Ryan team. At number 8, we're gonna talk about this pod first. So coaches, knowing that we're that both 7-2 Bishop Tonos Titans and the 10-1 Assumption Crusaders both concluded their season as GHAC semifinalists, what non-record criteria, maybe it's like strength of schedule of their division or quality of losses, they are coming from GHAC, or maybe even the final game margin. How do you think the committee voted to justify these two at 10 and 9, based on Tonos not even getting out of to regional playdowns? Then they end up at number 10, and Assumption one game away from OFSA.
I think it lends itself to what coaches recognize has been a strong historical region, and recognizing the gauntlet that it is to get out of GHAC. And so, as we mentioned earlier, not all records are made equal. And so Assumption coming up and doing what they did this year, we already talked about how quality a team Nelson was, and they bested them in their city final, or their league final, and in the GHAC semi, right? And same thing with Tonos. It's a gauntlet to get out of Hamilton with the quality of teams there. So it's more than fair to recognize them where they are at right now.
We had the opportunity last spring. We had a spring camp, and then we had a spring scrimmage versus Tonos. They came over to us at Etobicoke, and I can tell you they're a very good team. Their line play very good skill positions, quarterback, pretty much a complete team, right? And we battled for a little bit with them, but you can tell their levels above our region. So I think they definitely they're in the right spot there at number 10 or number 9.
Yeah, and funny enough, Coach Tassone was saying that, or Tassoni was saying that they might be a little young this year. I don't think any youth was showing this year based on how they finished. Honestly, a 1-loss or 2-loss season, and the only 2 losses coming to Bishop Ryan. You got to give them their props for, if they think they're a young team, watch out next year, right? Like that'll be the team to see, if not in that region.
Yeah, I'll say even though Bishop Tonos came up short there in the Hamilton Catholic finals, I think the fact that they kept it so close is the reason why they're in the top 10. I think we were all amazed at how Bishop Ryan was just like crushing everyone in the Hamilton League. And then to see them, even though they didn't win, Bishop Tonos in that game, just keeping it close, I think really helped their cause and allowed them to creep into the top 10 there.
Yeah, and I think for Assumption, right? Like I think in order they went Corpus, Nelson, then Bishop Ryan. Like 3 consecutive games. That's a gauntlet of 3 games.
Yeah. No, that Assumption team did a really good job this year, claiming, like we said, claiming the number 1 spot in the Burlington Catholic area, and like you just said, Coach Hutchinson, that GHAC slog of games is no joke. Playing 3 high quality opponents in almost 10 days of football is pretty crazy to try to get yourself to an OFSA bowl. So you got to give Assumption a shout out for the gauntlet they went through down the stretch, and especially knock. And I know, I'm sorry to Coach Brock, he won't be too happy about this one, but knocking off a perennial heavy hitter like Nelson in the fashion that they did. We've seen the replay, we've seen the run by, we've seen a couple guys miss. It's a pretty impressive clip. So sometimes you got to have luck on your side, and in that case, lucky to be good and good to be lucky. So congratulations, Assumption, great season. Any other last thoughts on those two before we move on? We'll head on up. Let's move on up to number 8. we're making a first-time appearance in our 2025 final rankings for the Westdale Warriors. They finished this year for the first time ever at the end of the year as a ranked team. They are finishing at 10-1. They are the HWDSB champions out of Hamilton Public, and they are also just one game shy of being the SOSA champions. They lost to a very strong AN Meyer team and just missed out on an OFSA berth. So congratulations on a very historic run, Westdale. Very good season for you guys at 10-1. At number 7, the Holy Names Knights from Windsor, Ontario. Another Windsor team. Again, we talked about their perennial rivalry with Herman. It seems to be one of these two teams every year, and this year it was the Holy Names Knights coming out and taking that championship out of Windsor, and then going down to Sarnia and taking that regional championship as well, and getting to OFSA and taking care of business. So, congratulations on a strong season, Holy Names. So, coaches, we have an 8-1 Holy Names Knights, ranked one spot higher than a 10-1 Westdale Warriors. What unique quality did the committee see in maybe the Holy Names program or their regional challenges that allowed them to leapfrog a team with maybe 2 more victories? Was it the fact that they got to OFSA? Was it the fact that maybe they're playing a different schedule? How do we feel about that? Yeah.
I'll chime in there. I think their only loss, Holy Names, came early in the season, if I'm not mistaken, to Herman, who's also a very good team. But if again, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I think they won their city final versus Herman by a very convincing score, and then did so again in the OFSA Bowl against a quality St. James team. So, seeing those convincing wins, I think really convinced coaches to rank them so high. And very deserving. And
we saw a little bit of a retooling there, Tom. They throw the ball pretty well. Stefan Logan over there throwing it to receivers. But you saw down the stretch that they were truly built for November football. They started running that I form downhill, and that was tough for teams to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. And we played before them, and it was pretty windy, and then they got snow in their game. So it was rough conditions. And like you said, I think the play of the game too, or play of the entire bowl series happened that game where the quarterback was just scrambling and launched one up for a long TD. I don't know if you guys saw that, but very impressed with them. I'll say I'm also really impressed though with Westdale Warriors. We got to watch that film in our preparation for Meyer. Very well balanced team that can throw and run, tough veteran defense, very good linemen. I think they were a pretty mature team too. I think they had some older players on the team, and it showed. And they challenged Meyer. So 2 great programs. I mean, this could go either way.
I agree with those comments. Westdale was a very good football team, very well coached, some big, strong linemen. It was a very physical game. In particular, defensive lineman number 95, I believe Aiden Smallwood, fantastic D lineman. He was a handful to try and deal with. But it was a really good game, and that's a very good, I think arguably 7-8 between the two. Either one could be in either spot, but both very good programs, and they were a good, challenging game.
Yeah. And we do notice that all the way from 10 down to 6, this group is pretty heavily dominated by GHAC and Southern Ontario football. What does that say as a statement for football in Southern Ontario right now?
I think it's growing. I think we're seeing good numbers of kids coming out. We're seeing more competitive football down here, and I think, yeah, we're on the right trajectory. And I think the things we're doing within this program and the press that we bring through this committee we all sit on is promoting it very well, and I think we're seeing some growth.
Yeah, just touch on that. I just wanted to say the same thing. Kind of, if you look at the summer, the OSFL, most of the stronger programs are in Southern Ontario, whether it's Western, whether it's Burlington. I think Niagara Spears, they had a couple good seasons, right? So you got to tip your hat to those programs. And a lot of these players play on these programs, and eventually when they get back to high school, all the high school teams are probably going to reflect that dominance that you have in the summer. So I think that's testament.
Well, we started establishing that top 10, fellas, but we still have some names to be revealed. We've got 3 undefeated teams and 2 programs with 2 losses remaining. And you're thinking 2 losses, how does that get you into a top 6? But as you can see, it's time to start naming our big fish. So let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get into our top 6 right now. And starting at number 6, that crucial 6th spot, Bishop Ryan Celtics out of Hamilton Catholic. Your Hamilton champions go 11-1. Hamilton Catholic champions go 11-1, taking the GHAC final as well, and then falling short to a very strong London CCH at OFSA. So tip your hat to Bishop Ryan. They really did a really good job this year. Again, squeaking out that win out of Bishop Tonos in the finals, and then dominating the GHAC in the way that they did against Assumption. And so they deserve that 6th spot. Number 5, we have our AN Meyer Marauders out of Niagara, Ontario, also at 11-1 against in the NRHSAA or DSBN. They are public Niagara Public champions. They are SOSA champions this year, and again, just falling short at an OFSA Bowl. In dramatic fashion, the most dramatic fashion you could imagine. Probably the most entertaining bowl game of the year in overtime. But props to the coaches over at Meyer and the players. So coaches, we have the 11-1 Bishop Ryan Celtics, followed immediately by the 11-1 Meyer Marauders. What's the single most determining factor that makes one over the other? Was it schedule quality, final score margin, the nature of the loss? What do we think separated, and why do we think the committee voted the way it did?
I'll chime in. 2 things I want to say. First, I think that the GHAC, I know guys talked about how tough it is and how many games they play in a short amount of time, but I think SOSA is in the exact same boat. I don't know if that's something we need to look at OFSA, but the amount of games they got to play against top tier opponents leading into the OFSA games is almost unfair. I mean, it's an absolute battle. So hats off to both those teams for playing so many high level games back to back just to get there. And I know that's wear and tear on your team, and just the emotions too, and the physical wear and tear. If you're asking why one's higher than the other, I mean, both great programs. I would say probably just the performance in the last game, but that CCH team is very good. And Meyer, unbelievable team. We were very fortunate to play them, and I've said this multiple times. It's really unfortunate that someone had to be on the losing end of that game that we played. It was incredible for Meyer to mount the comeback they did. We thought the game was over and push it to overtime. Just a testament to their toughness and quality of coaching and the character they have in that program. Just unfortunate someone had to lose that one. But if you're asking why one's higher than the other, I think maybe that kind of left a lasting impression in some of the voters' minds was the performance in that final game.
Yeah, definitely a difference between an overtime game at OFSA and a 25-0 loss might be a little separator. Anybody else have some comments about these 2 awesome teams?
Just for me, it was a great game. Just as a football fan, it was a great game to watch. Like, I was up off my couch with Meyer coming back to send it to overtime. It was an unbelievable game. It was by far, I think, the best game that OFSA had.
I love the contrasting styles, right? You had the spread versus the wing T, right? You have power football versus spread football. Essentially came down the wire, and it was a great game. Yeah, just as a fan, it was just great to watch. Wish we could have more games like that. Hopefully in the future.
Definitely, it's both 2 teams are very deserving of a top 10 spot. So congratulations again one more time to Bishop Ryan and Meyer. But we do have to move on, and we're
Jeff?
going to. Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to ask if I could do one quick shout out.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Well, 2. So shout out to Coach Buchanan and Coach Pap. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our quarterback play this year. Noah Walters evolved into a very, very good quarterback this year. So a big shout out to him as well. We were lucky to have guys like Travis Boland, Lucas Landry, Carter Ralston, Marco Angelini, and Aaron Faulkner. And we have a great bunch of 11s coming up. So hopefully we can be competitive again next year. So thank you guys.
I got to echo that. The quarterback was unbelievable. I mean, no lead ever felt safe there, and it showed. It wasn't safe. So, incredible player, and I think you're going to see him playing far beyond high school.
Big shout out to all those players and coaches, and we'll keep it moving here. Moving into that number 4 spot now. We're getting right into that nitty gritty. We've got the Frontenac Falcons out of Kingston, Ontario at 10-1, CASA Kingston champions, EOSA representatives, and an amazing season out of Kingston where they pretty much dominated that entire year. It was 1A and it wasn't even close. So congratulations to Frontenac for that. And at number 3, we see a rise and the return of the Cora Colts out of Sault Ste. Marie. At 10-0, they are Sault Ste. Marie High School football champions, NOSA champions, and bowl champions in dramatic fashion against that Ann Meyer team in overtime. So congratulations, Coach Annan, on an amazing season. And that number 3 spot seems pretty deserving this year. Our final undefeated teams are outside the very top spot. We see 10-0 Cora Colts, the final true undefeated team on this list, ranked 1 position ahead of a 10-1 Frontenac Falcons team. Do we feel like that's a fair place to put these last 2 teams based on how the season went? We saw Frontenac pretty much at number 1 or 2 most of the year, and Cora again never really dropped anywhere lower than 5th. So how do we feel about the records? How do we feel about the final ranking? Let's talk about those 2 teams.
Personally, Jeff, from my perspective, both are great programs, both are great teams. But hats off to Coach Annett and the performance at that OSA Bowl game. I think they easily could be number 2. Very, very majestic performance. In a year when you graduate all your linemen, that's the last guy you want to see staring across from you. I tell you that much. But I could easily see Cora in the number 2 spot. But that's no disrespect to Frontenac because they're a great program too.
I think the rankings are spot on, but I think we got to give Frontenac some credit because I think Frontenac's probably the only Ontario team that's made Huron sweat the last 3 years. Even last year, Cora hung around, Corpus Christi hung around a little bit, but Frontenac is the only team that had them sweating in the 4th quarter and literally took I think it was like a 7 or 8 minute drive in the 4th quarter to make it a 2-possession game. So you got to give them credit, and just it's a testament to their season this season, their abilities this season, and honestly they could even be higher. We got them at 4, but I mean, they could be 2 or 3, right? It's not. It's the margins are just so tight right now. When you get to the top 4, like any program could be ranked higher or lower.
Absolutely. Coach Dosen, I had the pleasure also of playing Frontenac a season ago with most of that team still intact. And I got to say, their line is big as advertised. And I think I got to be honest, and I'm going to speak for Eastern Ontario a little bit. I think we catch a little bit of flack about maybe not being a strong region sometimes. But I kept telling people this year that Frontenac had a team. And I stood by that most of the year. And I got to be honest, seeing guys like Jack Day and a couple of those guys make some moves, like I was extremely impressed. That big O line pushes bodies, and that defense is stout. They may not have the top athletes, and when I mean freak athleticism, but they play great team football. They get after it, and those boys are never afraid to mix it up. So I got to give them a huge shout out. And honestly, I think it's they're the standard in Eastern Ontario and Ottawa area, EOSA area as well, and that's kind of what we're shooting for.
Yeah, Frontenac just a dominant program, and they're very balanced on offense too. Tough to defend. I mean, they just got the unlucky draw. We were there last year playing Huron Heights at the bowl game, and it is a tough opponent, man. Really tough. So, who knows? Like, maybe they played the top team, arguably in the country. So is it fair to drop? Like it happened to us last year, and I thought we had a really good team last year too that could compete with anyone at the bowl series as well. So, it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's too bad we couldn't face the top 5-6 teams, couldn't face each other because no one really knows. It's all a guessing game at this point. The margins are so thin, as you guys said.
another part of that is they were missing their best receiver as well as one of their top O linemen. Do we feel like that might have made a difference, or is football just a team game and you got to roll with the guys you have?
I think anytime you're talking about taking two substantial players out of a lineup, when we're talking about top 5, 6 teams, it's going to make a difference and it's going to make an impact. Even if it's just a couple plays a game, that can matter and it can make a difference. And maybe it does change their ranking at the end of the day, but still incredible seasons by both.
Absolutely should be proud. We should mention as well that this is Coach Johnston's last season. So happy retirement, Coach Johnston, and congratulations on an amazing teaching career as well as football coaching career at Frontenac. We're super happy to shout you out and give you your flowers. So thank you very much for everything you've done. Yeah. All right, fellas, we've hit the last portion. We've reached the summit. 2 teams, 2 programs, and they represent the absolute pinnacle this year of high school football in our province. We have 2 contrasting resumes, technically, but the undefeated regional powerhouse against the battle tested independent contender with 2 losses is where we stand. The committee has reviewed every single metric, every single snap, and they simply could not separate them. For the first time in the history of Ontario high school football, we do have a tie for top spot. Ladies and gentlemen, your co-number ones for this year are the Huron Heights Warriors out of Newmarket at 10-2, and the Catholic Central Crusaders from London, Ontario, WASA. Congratulations to both the Huron Heights Warriors as well as the Catholic Central Crusaders. Now, coaches, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about these 2 programs. Let's talk about CCH and why they proved their worth, beating Bishop Ryan 25-0. And while Huron Heights validated their schedule by taking down Frontenac, but also a tough American schedule. Let's talk about these 2 programs.
I think for London CCH, we all agreed that London's one of the most powerhouse leagues in Ontario. And London went 170 points for, and only 11 against the entire stretch in London. So that's super impressive.
Yeah, led by an amazing running back in Keyshawn Manning. You know, that guy went for 1,755 yards rushing this year and 18 touchdowns, and he was your WASA MVP. He'll be the first, I'm sure, to shout out his O-line, but that's no small feat. He's probably breaking tackles, getting out there, and you saw that during the OFSA game where he was dead to rights on one of those runs on an outside zone play, and all of a sudden he pops out of a pile of 3 guys and just keeps it moving for a touchdown. You got to say that he's quite impressive.
Yeah, also, though, it's not like they just turned around and handed the ball off either. They had a very strong passing game. They could beat you both ways, and certainly their margin of victory was more than impressive. And it's a heck of a season for CCH to do what they did. Like we already talked about the parity in London, but they were head and shoulders above everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd be remiss as well if we didn't talk about the Huron Heights Warriors and Caleb St. Clair, Keenan Tan, Nolan McCallum, the Buckridge boys, a couple O-linemen and Mastro Giacomo and Cappucciato and Keegan Milcoy, and of course Heath's son as well, Jackson Weir, who mans that line at center. As well as he's given a shout out to his kicking game and Kamani James as well. Let's talk a little bit and shift our focus to Huron Heights a little bit.
So I had the pleasure of playing these guys in this generation in the Junior Metro Bowl 2 years ago in the Junior Metro Bowl semifinal, and we got on the field, and it was basically the first 2 drives were like, oh boy, okay, yeah, we're in trouble. So yeah, they beat us like it was like 50-0. But this is that generation now. They're in grade 12, and when was Huron's last Ontario loss? Was it St. Thomas More?
It was at Laurier at OFSA in 2022, so it was a while ago. Yeah,
so, I mean, 3 years of undefeated play in Ontario, and they take on the U.S. schedule. Sometimes you got to tip your hat, and yeah, I think they're well deserving of the Tide 1 ranking, if you want to call it T1. And I wish we could see these 2 teams face off, and hopefully next year we have a game to decide a true number one, but both teams are definitely deserving of this number one ranking.
Yeah, Huron plays the toughest league, the toughest schedule, I'd say, maybe in the country every year with their lineup of American games, and these are top level opponents they're playing in the States, like ranked teams in the States.
Yeah, they have a Michigan state champion they played this year.
Yeah, rarely do you see Ontario teams go and beat American teams, but especially American teams of that caliber. And I know some of their opponents had, some Power 5 scholarship guys on their team. So, but Huron Heights as well has a few Division 1 type scholarship athletes on their team, and their 2 DNs, and just some phenomenal players. And as a team that played them, it's just so tough that they will wear you down in the fourth quarter. And we try and mimic something similar at Cora, where you're going to face loaded boxes, but if they squeak through that second level, they're gone and busting out a big run. But what separates them is their ability to consistently get 3, 4, 5 yards, and then they go for it on third down. Just incredible O-line play. And back to London CCH, said multiple times, the league is so strong, but so is the Hamilton Catholic League. And I think we were really surprised when 2 teams that dominated those traditional powerhouse leagues faced off each other to see CCH be in full control of that game. And I think that really helped their cause here for a number 1 spot tie.
Yeah, we were seeing guys at that OFSA game like Marley Asunción and Kevin Chavaria, as well as Will Monroe, making plays all over the field. The proof is in the pudding. They had 8 first-team WASA All-Stars, and they led the conference in those All-Star nominations. So you're going to see a lot of guys on that roster playing next-level football and playing on Saturdays at either U Sports or even taking a shot down south at the NCAA. So there's a loaded team there. They were led as well by Nathan Summers, the defensive player of the year. So out of London, it just shows you how deep that defense was, and maybe why the score was what it was at that OFSA game.
Yeah, I just want to echo Tom's statement about Huron Heights consistency. Ironically, watching the highlight clip, the amount of times that they busted for big runs, but like Tom said, and certainly it showed in the Frontenac game and their drive in the fourth quarter to extend that lead and in all instances lock up the game. They were steady and consistent in hammering out the 3-4 yards per play, and they'll stick with it. Whereas some teams, they might feel tempted to chase the big play. They are more than happy living in that 5-6 yard gain all the way down the field, march it, control the clock, and grind you down. We've played them the last few years just to test us fundamentally, and they stick to their game plan. You know what they're going to do, but they just execute it far better than anyone else.
Any final comments before we sign off as a group? As you can see here, there it is, your final Ontario High School Football Coaches Top 25. We do want to thank our excellent panel today for coming out. Shout out to all you guys and giving your expertise on the coaches committee this year as well, and all our coaches committee who are not on the show today. We would like to also thank TYSN Sports for, again, breaking down this historic first ever live reveal, and we appreciate you guys doing that. And we got to say that the debate is officially finalized, or maybe it's just gotten worse because now we've got a tied team. Maybe if we get that +1 at some point, we may be able to figure it out. But until then, we've got to settle. We've got to settle for a tie, and we've got to accept the fact that these 2 teams are deserving champions. So, without further ado, for all of us here at TYSN as well as the coaches panel, good night, and thank you guys for coming out. Have a great night, and see you guys